Welcome to Shatter.
We arrived together, her hand in mine. The smile she gave me at the door still warm, still familiar. The kind of smile that said we're okay, even if lately we hadn't been. It was a company party, her office, not mine. Big place, downtown rooftop, jazz humming in the background, string lights overhead like a Pinterest dream. She looked stunning. I told her that. She smiled, said thank you, but didn't really look at me. That's how the night started. Normal. Slightly off. The kind of off you ignore because you're used to pretending. I stood beside her as she greeted people I didn't know. Names flew past me like static. She laughed easily, leaned in close when she talked, touched arms, shoulders, not mine. I stood there, holding a glass I didn't want, trying to look engaged, but feeling like a backdrop, like a coat rack with a pulse. Then it happened. She turned to one of the guys, some tall, smooth-talking marketing exec from her team, and laughed. Not just laughed. Laughed. That intimate, charged kind of laugh. The kind that makes a man feel chosen. She touched his chest. Brief, casual, but not accidental. And then she smiled. Not at me. At him. That smile wasn't polite. It wasn't professional. It wasn't innocent. It was familiar. It was the same smile she used to give me when I made her coffee in the mornings. When I whispered something stupid just to see her grin. When she used to pull me closer in the dark and say she couldn't sleep without me. Now she gave that smile to someone else. And I was right there, a few feet away, watching it like a ghost watches the living. She didn't even flinch. Didn't look over. Didn't notice. That was the moment. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just clear. I wasn't her partner tonight. I was her plus one. Her accessory. Her silence. So I did what men like me aren't expected to do. I stopped trying to belong. And I started walking. There's something brutal about being ignored publicly. It's not the absence of attention, it's the replacement of it. You become unnecessary, redundant, replaced without announcement. That smile didn't leave my mind. Not for the next minute. Not for the rest of the night. I wasn't jealous of him. I didn't care who he was, how well he dressed, how confidently he placed his hand on her back as he whispered something that made her laugh again. I wasn't watching him. I was watching her. The way her face softened. The way her eyes lit up like he was the only person who mattered. That used to be mine. I used to be her soft place to land. Her warm smile at the end of a long day. And now? Now I was just a man with a drink, standing 3 feet away from someone who used to love him. She didn't look over once. Didn't check if I was okay. Didn't wonder where I was standing, how I was feeling. Not even out of basic decency. And that told me everything. She wasn't being cruel. She was being indifferent. And indifference is the most dangerous kind of neglect. It's the kind that doesn't flinch when it breaks you. I remember setting my glass down on the bar. Slowly. Quietly. No scene. No drama. That's when I caught it, another look. Across the room, her friend was watching. One of the quieter ones. The kind who rarely spoke when we were all together. Dark eyes, thoughtful expression. Always slightly in the background. But not tonight. She wasn't looking at the guy. She wasn't even looking at her friend. She was looking at me. And in that look, there was no pity. Just understanding. Like she'd seen this before. Like she knew the script, the twist, the moment where a man realizes he's no longer part of the story. She didn't smile. She just held my gaze for a second too long. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't a signal. It was recognition. A quiet, powerful acknowledgement. She saw me. And more than that, she saw what was happening. That was the second moment. The moment that took the sting out of the first. Because in that moment, I realized something simple, something devastating, something freeing. I was done asking to be seen. And people who ignore you in public? They don't deserve explanations in private. So I did what no one expected. I walked out. Not in anger. Not in pain. But in peace. The thing about quiet exits? They don't echo until later. No one noticed me leave. Not her. Not the guy with the perfect smile. Not the coworkers pretending not to notice her flirting. But she noticed. The friend. The one with the quiet eyes. She was near the back, leaning against a brick wall lined with fake ivy and warm lights. She had a glass of wine in her hand she hadn't touched in a while. She watched me walk past the bar, past the coat rack, past the door. And she followed. Not immediately. Not like she was chasing me. She waited a few beats. Let the air clear. Let my absence register in the room. Then she stepped away like she was just going to the restroom. Like this wasn't the moment everything changed. Outside, the air hit different. It was cold, clean, sharp, honest. I stood near the curb, hands in my coat pockets, watching traffic go by. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was still. Still in a way I hadn't felt in months. And then she was there, beside me. She didn't speak right away, just stood there. Two strangers in the night. One recovering, one observing. Finally, she said, "That was hard to watch." Her voice was low, steady. I nodded once. "She does that sometimes," she continued. "Makes people feel invisible. I think she likes it." I didn't reply. Didn't need to. She glanced at me, more curious than cautious. "I'm sorry," she added. "I know it's not my place. But you didn't deserve that." And maybe that was all I needed to hear. Not justification. Not sympathy. Just acknowledgement. So I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't dressed to impress. No flashy lipstick. No designer earrings. Just authenticity. The kind of woman who saw more than she said. And suddenly I realized she'd probably been watching this fall apart for longer than I had. She saw the micro cuts, the slow fades, the little humiliations I shrugged off in silence. Because sometimes it takes someone outside the chaos to recognize the pattern. "You look like a ghost in there," she said. "Like you were disappearing in real time." I let out a quiet breath. Yeah, that's exactly how it felt. She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing. "But you didn't fall apart. You walked away." I turned toward her. Because falling apart gives her too much credit. She smiled. Just a little. Good. The silence between us didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, she said, "I'm heading out. Want to walk?" I didn't ask where. Didn't ask why. I just nodded. And we walked. No explanations. No agenda. No expectations. Just two people leaving a place where they were never meant to stay. We didn't say much at first. The city hummed around us, cars slicing through the night, distant sirens, laughter spilling from open bar doors. But between us, there was only quiet. The kind that doesn't demand to be filled. She walked a step behind me, heels soft against the pavement, coat pulled tight against the wind. I could feel her glancing over now and then, but she didn't push. She wasn't there to fix me. She was just there. And that meant more than any apology I could have gotten inside that party. Every few blocks, I expected her to turn back, to check her phone, to say this was a mistake. But she didn't. She stayed in step, unbothered by the silence. Finally, we turned onto a quieter street, a row of townhouses lit by dim porch lights, and the soft glow of living rooms where people still felt wanted. We stopped near a small park bench, and I sat down first. She joined me. Still, no words. And then, after a while, she said, "You didn't look surprised." When she did it, I shook my head. Because it wasn't the first time. "Not like that, though," she said. "No," I agreed. "Not that obvious. Not that final." She took a slow breath. "I've watched her treat people like props for years. But tonight, you weren't a prop. You were the mirror. That caught my attention." "The mirror?" I asked. She nodded. "Yeah, you reflected her indifference back at her. And she didn't know how to handle it." I looked up at the sky. No stars. Just haze and soft city glow. "She'll notice I left," I said. "She already has," she replied. "She just doesn't know why yet." We sat in silence again. But this time, it felt warmer. Like a pause between chapters. Then her voice, softer now. "She used to treat me the same way, you know? Like a convenience. Like someone to have around when the crowd was thin." I glanced at her, surprised. "She's been my friend since college," she said. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being friendship and became proximity. I just didn't realize how far I'd shrunk until I saw how small she made you feel. I nodded slowly. That party, it wasn't the breaking point. It was the confirmation. "And now?" she asked. "Now," I said. "I stopped giving people the power to unmake me." She didn't respond. She didn't need to. We just sat there, two people who had both been lessoned by the same person in different ways. Now sharing a moment that wasn't about revenge or validation. It was about leaving. And how powerful that can be when it's quiet. I didn't check my phone that night. Not once. Not when I left the party. Not during the walk. Not even when I got home and dropped my keys into the bowl by the door like I always did. Except this time, without the usual feeling of coming home. The silence wasn't cold anymore. It was mine. I took a shower, made a cup of coffee I didn't need, sat in the kitchen with the light off, and just existed. Not as someone's accessory. Not as someone's fallback. But as a man who had finally stepped out of the frame. The first message came just after midnight. Where did you go? No punctuation. No concern. Just curiosity dressed as control. 10 minutes later. Are you seriously doing this right now? Then. We were just talking. You left like a child. I stared at the screen. Read them once. Then turned it face down. There was no anger in me. No hurt to respond from. Only clarity. She wasn't asking because she missed me. She was asking because I had the audacity to stop orbiting. People like her thrive on predictability. On knowing that no matter what they do, you'll still be there. And now I wasn't. A full hour passed. Then another message. Seriously. Call me. Don't make this a thing. That one made me laugh. Because she had made it a thing the moment she smiled at another man like I was invisible. But what she didn't know is that I hadn't left in anger. I had left in resolve. That's what people like her never understand. They expect the explosion, the confrontation, the big scene, because it makes them the victim. But when you walk away without fire, you take their script with you. By morning, there were 3 more messages, each more desperate. But I didn't answer, because I'd already said everything I needed to say by walking out without a sound. And now, she had to sit in it. In the stillness. In the confusion. In the emptiness she carved herself. She gave me the role of a ghost. So I became one. And for the first time, she had to feel what it's like to be haunted. She messaged me the next day. Not her. The friend. The one who followed me out into the night. The one who didn't try to fix anything, just witnessed it. Her name was Claire. We'd never really spoken before that night. Not beyond polite hellos and party small talk. She'd always been the quiet one. In the background. Just like I had been lately. Maybe that's why she noticed. She wrote. I hope it's okay that I reached out. I just couldn't stop thinking about how she treated you. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure how. Not because I didn't want to, but because it felt like stepping into a new room in a house I thought I'd already burned down. She followed up a few hours later. I used to think I was crazy, that maybe I was imagining how small she made me feel. But last night, watching it happen to you, it clicked. She doesn't just neglect people. She erases them. Those words stuck. She erases people. That was exactly it. It wasn't about anger, or cheating, or betrayal in the classic sense. It was about being edited out of your own life, one dismissive laugh at a time. I finally replied. Thanks for seeing it. Most people don't. She responded almost immediately. No one deserves to feel like furniture. I've known her a long time, and I've spent too much of it shrinking myself just to be tolerated in her space. I sat with that for a while, because that's what she did. My ex. She didn't demand control. She absorbed it. Took your attention, your kindness, your effort, without offering anything back. Until you were just there. Not loved. Not hated. Just used. Claire wasn't being dramatic. She was just being honest. And in that honesty, I saw a version of myself I hadn't met before. Someone who deserved better. Someone who didn't need to explain his pain to anyone. Claire ended her message with one line I'll never forget. You left with silence. And I think that scared her more than anything else could. She was right. Because silence has weight. And when it comes from someone who used to beg for connection, it becomes unbearable. That night, I didn't think about my ex. I didn't check my phone. I just read Claire's message again. And for the first time in weeks, I felt seen. 3 days. That's how long it took her to realize I wasn't coming back into orbit. Not hours. Not one panicked call that night. 3 full days of radio silence. And then the text started again. So that's it. You're just gone. Can we talk like adults? I don't understand why you're making this a big deal. That one made me pause. A big deal. Because of course, in her mind, that's all it was. Just a moment. Just a look. Just a smile that lasted too long. People like her don't notice slow destruction. Not until it touches them. But I wasn't reading those messages for reconciliation. I was reading them like a man watches smoke rise from the house he already left. Not with panic. Not with regret. Just quiet confirmation. Let her feel the echo. Let her walk through that apartment and wonder why the air feels heavier. Why the kitchen's too quiet. Why her texts don't get replies by the second. Let her stare at the empty couch where I used to sit every evening. Let her replay that night over and over. The laugh. The touch. The look. And realize. That was the moment she traded presence for performance. She thought she was being charming. But what she really did was draw the exit sign. Claire messaged again that night. Just one line. She texted me. Asked if I know what's going on with you. I didn't reply. Not to Claire. Not to my ex. Not to the world that used to include her. Because this wasn't about ignoring someone. It was about removing myself from a space where I was never valued. And once you do that, you stop explaining your worth. Let the silence explain it for you. The texts kept coming. Some angry, some confused. A few even sounded hurt. I was just having fun. It wasn't like that. You're seriously going to leave over nothing? You're being dramatic. That one hit different. Because it was projection. She was the drama. She was the performance. And I was just the audience who finally stopped clapping. I never responded. Not once. And that silence? It was louder than anything I could have said. I didn't rush it. There's a kind of dignity in taking your time when you've been discarded without hesitation. I waited a full week. A week of unanswered messages. A week of silence that grew heavier by the hour. A week where she tried everything except accountability. And during that week, I started gathering pieces of my life. Quietly, methodically. I didn't take much. Just what was mine. A few books. My clothes. The records she never cared to play. I left the shared photos. The things that once tried to tell a story that no longer existed. The apartment felt different when I moved through it with intention. I used to walk those rooms trying to be smaller, trying not to disturb whatever mood she was in. Now I walked with clarity. I packed in silence. No dramatic music. No weeping. Just movement. Just freedom. Before I left, I sat on the edge of the bed one last time. Not to remember anything. Just to make sure I didn't feel anything anymore. I didn't. And that, more than anything, was the closure I needed. I left the key on the kitchen counter, next to a note. Not a letter. Not a list of everything she'd done wrong. Just a few lines. You didn't notice me disappearing. Now it's already done. This is not revenge. It's release. That was it. No signature. No goodbye. Just finality. I locked the door behind me for the last time. Walked down the stairs, not looking back. And when I stepped outside, into the same city that watched me vanish at that party, it felt like breathing clean air for the first time in months. She didn't respond to the note. Not directly. But Claire messaged me the next day. She came to my place. Said she didn't understand why you'd leave like that. I just replied. Because she never bothered to understand while I was still there. Claire didn't say much after that. She didn't need to. We both knew. That kind of goodbye isn't about escape. It's about graduation. And I wasn't running. I was rising. It started with a message from Claire. She showed up. At my place. I read it twice, already knowing what was coming next. She asked if I was with you. That made me pause. Not because I cared, but because it told me exactly where my ex's mind was. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about the story. Because people like her, they can handle being disliked, but they can't handle being irrelevant. And now, her own friend, one who had stood behind her for years, wasn't defending her. Claire told me the rest later. She asked if I was seriously taking her side, and I told her the truth. Claire had looked her straight in the eye and said, I'm not with him, but I'm also not with you. Because you didn't lose a boyfriend. You lost a man who was trying, quietly, to be enough for someone who stopped seeing him. Apparently, she didn't take it well. She accused Claire of betrayal, of interfering, of overreacting. All the usual defenses of someone who doesn't know how to sit in the consequence of their own choices. But that conversation wasn't for me. It was for her. Her reality, where she was always adored, always excused, had finally cracked. And the worst part for her? There was no villain to blame. No scandal. No explosion. Just a man who slipped through her fingers while she laughed at someone else. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. She stopped texting eventually. Stopped explaining. Stopped asking questions she didn't want the answers to. But I know her. I know how quiet moments eat at her. She used to thrive on noise, attention, laughter, drama. Now she has silence. And the thing about silence? It doesn't go away. It settles. It grows. Until every empty room starts to feel like a conversation she can't control. Claire and I talked a few more times. Nothing romantic. Nothing heavy. Just two people who had both outgrown the same person in different ways. Sometimes she'd ask how I was doing. And I'd tell her the truth. Better. Not because I found someone new. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I stopped shrinking. And once you stop shrinking, you start becoming someone they never imagined losing. It's strange what you remember. Not the arguments. Not the silences at dinner. Not even the night she laughed like I was invisible. No. What I remember most is the moment after. The stillness. The peace. The space where my identity used to revolve around her moods, her attention, her approval, and how suddenly I didn't need any of it. That's what healing looked like. Not fireworks. Not closure. Not some grand new romance. Just silence that didn't hurt anymore. Weeks passed. Then a month. And one evening, I got the final message. It wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It was quiet. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. I thought you just needed space. But now I realize you were already gone. She was right. The part of me that tried, that stayed, that hoped she'd turn and see me again. That part died the moment she smiled at someone else like I wasn't standing right there. And now? Now she was left talking to my absence. She didn't lose a boyfriend. She lost the man who stayed after the cold nights, the emotional neglect, the slow disintegration of what used to be us. She lost the man who was loyal past the point of reason. The man who defended her in rooms where she mocked him in silence. The man who used to wait for her to remember he existed. But I don't wait anymore. I don't ask anymore. She made me invisible in public. So I disappeared in private. And the life I built since? It's mine. Not louder. Not flashier. Just real. I go to bed without tension in my chest. I wake up without wondering if today I'll matter again. And when people ask what happened between us, I just say, one day, I realized I wasn't being ignored. I was being erased. So I stopped existing where I was never seen. No bitterness. No revenge. Just removal. Complete. Silent. Permanent. She once thought I'd never leave. That I'd always be orbiting, just out of reach, always hoping. But people like her always confuse silence for weakness. Until that silence becomes a wall they can't break through. And now, that's all she has. The memory of a man she never thought she'd lose. And the silence that answers every message she'll never send again. She made me invisible in public. So I removed myself in private for good. Real men don't explode. They exit. Subscribe for more power stories.